I keep coming back to this quiet feeling that something is off. Not in a dramatic way, nothing's on fire, no big crisis. Just this low level sense that even though life is easier than it's ever been, it somehow feels harder to sit with, harder to enjoy, harder to feel full. And what's weird is that I didn't notice it all at once. It crept in slowly, between food delivery apps and faster phones and time-saving everything. Somewhere in there, comfort stopped feeling comforting. I'll catch myself scrolling or watching something I don't really care about, or opening the fridge even though I'm not hungry, and there's this moment where I think, why am I doing this? And I don't mean in a guilty way, I mean genuinely. Like my body reached for something before my brain even checked in. At first, I thought this was just burnout or depression or maybe just adulthood. You know, the normal stuff people warn you about. But the more I paid attention, the more it felt like something bigger. Like we're all living inside a system designed to remove friction. And somehow that's exactly what's making everything feel so dull. I don't think we talk about that enough. How convenience doesn't just save time, it changes the texture of life. When I was younger, boredom felt different. It was annoying, sure, but it also felt open, like a blank page. Now boredom feels heavy, almost anxious. Like I should be doing something, anything, to fill the space. And the tools to fill it are always right there, in my pocket, on my wrist, on every screen in the room. There's no waiting anymore, no real gaps, no empty moments that force your mind to wander or your body to slow down. And that sounds great until you realize how much of being human actually happens in those gaps. Think about how often you genuinely wait now. Not wait while checking your phone, but actually wait in line for a bus, for someone to call back, for food to cook. Those moments used to be unavoidable. Now they're optional, and we've opted out of almost all of them. What we gained is obvious speed, efficiency, control. What we lost is harder to name. I remember when getting bored used to lead somewhere. You'd start pacing. You'd stare at the wall. Eventually, you'd get restless enough to do something dumb or creative or meaningful. You'd call a friend. You'd write something terrible. You'd go outside just to feel like something was happening. Now, boredom gets interrupted before it can turn into anything. The second it shows up, we smother it with content, with noise, with stimulation so constant it almost becomes invisible. And the thing is, none of this feels bad in the moment. That's what makes it so tricky. Convenience doesn't hurt you loudly. It numbs you quietly. You don't wake up one day feeling empty. You just wake up one day realizing you've been avoiding silence for a very long time. I've been thinking about how often we confuse comfort with fulfillment. They're not the same thing. Comfort is about removing discomfort. Fulfillment is about engaging with it, pushing against it, letting something cost you a little. Modern life is very good at the first part, almost obsessively good. Every inconvenience is treated like a problem to solve. Every delay is an error. Every uncomfortable feeling gets pathologized or medicated or optimized away. Hungry? Food in 10 minutes. Lonely? Infinite feeds of people talking. Bored? 1,000 videos competing for your attention. Tired? Coffee? Supplements? Productivity hacks? Sad? Motivational quotes? Distraction? A new show to binge? And again, none of this is evil. It's just relentless. There's no space left for feelings to unfold naturally. They get cut off mid-sentence, redirected, silenced. Sometimes I wonder if that's why so many of us feel this vague dissatisfaction we can't explain. Because nothing is technically wrong. On paper, life is fine. Better than fine. safer, softer, more convenient than any generation before us could have imagined. So, why does it feel like we're constantly waiting for something that never arrives? Part of it, I think, is that meaning usually comes from effort, from friction, from resistance. And we've built a world that treats resistance like a design flaw. Think about relationships. Dating apps make meeting people easier, but staying connected feels harder. Friendships are easier to maintain superficially, but harder to deepen. You can always reach someone, but you rarely sit with them in the same room doing nothing together. Even work has shifted. So many jobs are technically easier, less physically demanding, more flexible, and yet people feel more drained than ever. Not because they're doing too much, but because they're never fully doing one thing, always half working, half resting, half present, half elsewhere. There's this constant low-grade tension that comes from being reachable all the time, from knowing you could be doing something more productive, more entertaining, more optimized. Even relaxation starts to feel like a task you're failing at. You're not just watching a show, you're behind on other shows. You're not just resting, you're wasting time. You're not just bored, you're understimulated, so you add more tabs, more apps, more noise. And somehow, the more we add, the emptier it feels. I used to think emptiness came from lack of success, lack of love, lack of purpose. Now I'm not so sure. I think emptiness can also come from excess, from too many options, flattening everything into the same gray blur. When everything is available, nothing feels special. When everything is easy, nothing feels earned. When everything is instant, nothing lingers. There's a reason some of the most vivid memories people have involve inconvenience, long trips, awkward silences, getting lost, waiting for something that mattered. Those moments stick because they asked something of you: your patience, your attention, your presence. Convenience doesn't ask much, it delivers immediately, quietly, again and again, and slowly you stop asking things of yourself too. Here's the part that's uncomfortable. I don't think the problem is technology itself or convenience as a concept. I think the problem is that we've let it replace too many human processes instead of supporting them. We don't just use convenience to save time, we use it to avoid discomfort, to avoid uncertainty, to avoid ourselves. We scroll not because we're interested, but because stopping feels worse. We binge not because we're engaged, but because turning something off means being alone with our thoughts. We stay busy not because life demands it, but because stillness feels unfamiliar. At some point, convenience stopped being a tool and started being a coping mechanism. And coping mechanisms work until they don't. They dull the sharp edges, but they also dull everything else, joy included. That's the trade-off no one really advertises. You don't just lose pain, you lose contrast. Life starts to feel flat. Not bad, just muted. And then you start chasing intensity to feel something again. Bigger distractions, louder entertainment, faster gratification, and even that stops working after a while. I think that's why people talk about feeling exhausted even when they're doing nothing, because constant stimulation is still work. Your nervous system doesn't get a break. It's always processing, always reacting, always slightly on edge. Rest used to mean stopping. Now it often just means switching inputs, and switching inputs isn't the same as rest. There's this illusion that convenience gives us more time, but what it really gives us is more opportunities to fill time, and we're very good at filling it, even when we don't enjoy what we're filling it with. If you've ever finished a long scrolling session and felt vaguely disappointed, like you just ate junk food for your brain, You know what I mean? You weren't hungry, you were restless, and now you're still restless, just more tired. That feeling isn't a personal failure. It's a predictable outcome of an environment optimized for engagement, not satisfaction. We weren't designed for infinite options. We weren't designed for constant access. We weren't designed to never be bored. Boredom has a function. It points you toward what actually matters to you, or at least it used to. Now boredom gets drowned out before it can speak. Sometimes I wonder what we'd want if we let ourselves be bored again, truly bored. No phone, no background noise, just you and the uncomfortable space between moments. I don't think the answer would come quickly. That's kind of the point. There's something deeply human about effort, about things taking time, about not knowing exactly how something will turn out. Convenience tries to eliminate all of that. It promises certainty, speed, control, but control isn't the same as meaning. Meaning is messy, slow, inefficient. It involves getting things wrong, feeling awkward, sitting with feelings that don't resolve neatly. It's not optimized, and that makes it hard to monetize. So instead, we get a world that's endlessly comfortable and quietly unsatisfying. A world where everything works, but something feels missing. And maybe that something is us, not our bodies, not our attention, but our willingness to engage deeply with anything that doesn't immediately reward us. I don't have a clean solution to this. I don't think anyone does. And honestly, I'm suspicious of anyone who claims they've figured it out. This isn't about deleting apps or moving off the grid or romanticizing struggle for its own sake. It's more about noticing. Noticing when you reach for convenience out of habit instead of need. Noticing when discomfort might actually be pointing you somewhere. Noticing how often you trade depth for ease without realizing it. Sometimes meaning shows up disguised as inconvenience, a long walk instead of a ride, cooking instead of ordering, sitting with a feeling instead of scrolling it away, calling someone instead of liking their post. None of those things are revolutionary, they're just human. And they don't always feel good right away. That's the part we've forgotten how to tolerate. Maybe modern life feels empty, not because it lacks meaning, but because it removes too many chances to create it. Maybe the question isn't, how do we make life easier, but which difficulties are worth keeping? I don't know. I'm still figuring this out, still caught in the same loops, still reaching for my phone when things get quiet, still craving comfort while missing something deeper. But every once in a while, I let the silence stretch a little, longer. I don't fill it immediately. I don't optimize it. I just sit there, and it's uncomfortable and boring and strangely alive. Maybe that's the feeling we've been missing, or maybe that's just the beginning of remembering how to feel anything at all. But that moment never lasts very long. Not because something interrupts it, necessarily. Sometimes nothing happens at all. No notification, no sound, no external pull. And yet, there's this internal urge to move on, to do something, to check something, to escape the feeling before it turns into something else. That's when it hit me that silence isn't just rare anymore, it's unfamiliar. We don't just avoid silence because it's boring. We avoid it because it's revealing. It doesn't distract you. It doesn't entertain you. It doesn't reassure you. It just reflects whatever's already there. And a lot of us don't know what we'll find if we look too closely. When you sit in silence long enough, your mind starts doing things you didn't ask it to do. Old thoughts resurface. Half-finished emotions wander back in. Questions you've been postponing suddenly feel louder, and without something to drown them out, you actually have to acknowledge them. That can feel unsettling, even threatening. I think that's why we've gotten so good at filling every gap, not just with noise, but with purpose. Even our downtime has objectives now: relax efficiently, rest productively, recharge so you can go back out there and perform again. Stillness doesn't fit neatly into that framework. It doesn't produce anything, it doesn't prove anything, it doesn't move you forward in a way that's easy to measure. So it gets treated like a waste. But here's the thing: the longer I sit with silence, the more I realize that it's not empty at all. It's just unstructured. And we've lost our tolerance for things that don't immediately organize themselves. We want clarity without confusion, answers without questions, relief without sitting through discomfort first. Silence refuses to do that. It doesn't guide you. It doesn't reward you on a schedule. It just waits, and waiting feels wrong now. We've built a world where almost nothing asks us to wait, so when something does, it feels like a failure on our part, like we're falling behind, like we're not using our time correctly. But waiting used to be a normal part of being alive. Waiting for seasons to change, waiting for people to show up, waiting to understand something you didn't yet have words for. Those gaps weren't empty, they were formative. I think about how many realizations in my life didn't come from action, but from pause. Moments where nothing was happening externally, but something was rearranging itself internally. You can't force those moments. You can't schedule them. You can only make space for them. And space is exactly what convenience has been, quietly erasing. Not because it's malicious, but because it's efficient. Efficiency doesn't like gaps. It sees them as inefficiencies, opportunities to improve, problems to solve. So we smooth them out, fill them in, replace them with something faster, easier, more immediately rewarding. And in doing so, we shrink the room where meaning tends to grow. This is the part that's hard to articulate without sounding nostalgic or anti-progress, which I'm not. I like convenience. I use it constantly. I benefit from it every day. This isn't about rejecting modern life. It's about noticing what it's subtly teaching us. It teaches us that discomfort is unnecessary, that waiting is pointless, that if something doesn't feel good right away, it's probably not worth doing. But some of the most important parts of being human don't feel good right away. Understanding yourself doesn't feel good right away. Building something meaningful doesn't feel good right away. Sitting with grief or uncertainty or change definitely doesn't feel good right away. Those experiences ask something of you before they give anything back. And when you live in a world that minimizes asking, you slowly lose your patience for being asked at all. That's when everything starts to feel shallow. Not because it lacks depth, but because you're no longer willing or able to go there. I've noticed this in how quickly I want closure now, how uncomfortable I get with unresolved thoughts, how fast I want to label feelings instead of letting them exist in their messy, undefined state. Am I anxious or just restless? Am I sad or just bored? Am I unmotivated or just overwhelmed? Those distinctions take time to sort out. Silence helps with that. So does boredom. So does doing nothing long enough for your mind to settle into itself. But when you never give yourself that chance, everything blurs together and you end up treating every discomfort the same way by trying to eliminate it as quickly as possible. That's not healing. That's avoidance with better tools. And avoidance, no matter how sophisticated, always comes with a cost. The cost is depth. The cost is intimacy. The cost is the ability to sit with your own life without needing to constantly edit it, I don't think we're meant to feel good all the time. I don't even think we're meant to feel interesting all the time. I think we're meant to feel present, and presence includes boredom and confusion and moments where nothing is happening and you're not sure why you're uncomfortable. Those moments aren't bugs, they're signals. They're asking questions like, what do you actually want? What have you been avoiding? What matters when nothing is distracting you? And I get why we don't like those questions. They don't have easy answers. They don't resolve in a single sitting. Sometimes they don't resolve at all, but I'm starting to think that a life without those questions feels easier and ends up feeling emptier. Maybe modern life feels hollow, not because it's too shallow, but because it's too padded, too insulated from the raw edges where meaning usually lives. Maybe we didn't lose our sense of purpose. Maybe we just lost our tolerance for the quiet and comfortable process of finding it. I don't have a prescription for this. I'm not about to tell you to change your life or delete anything or suddenly embrace discomfort like it's a virtue. That kind of advice always sounds cleaner than it actually is. All I know is this: every time I resist the urge to immediately fill the silence, something small but real happens. A thought finishes itself. A feeling clarifies. A sense of direction, however faint, starts to form. It's subtle, easy to miss, easy to dismiss, but it feels different from the constant hum of convenience. It feels earned. Maybe that's the trade we've forgotten how to make. Trading ease for depth. Trading speed for understanding. Trading constant stimulation for moments that actually stick with you. And maybe we don't need to do it all the time. Maybe it's enough to do it once in a while, to let the silence stretch just a bit longer than feels comfortable. Not to fix anything, not to optimize anything, just to remember what it's like to be there, fully there, even if it's awkward, even if it's boring, even if it doesn't immediately make sense, because maybe that's not the end of the discomfort. Maybe that's the beginning of something we haven't felt in a long time. I don't really want to end this with a conclusion, because nothing here feels finished. It still feels like a question I'm carrying around, more than an answer I've figured out. I'm still reaching for my phone when things get quiet, still filling space when I don't need to, still choosing the easy thing, even when I know it's not the thing that stays with me. None of that magically changed just because I noticed it. But noticing did change something. It made the silence feel a little less like an enemy and a little more like an invitation. Not an obligation, not a rule, just a door that's there if I'm willing to sit long enough for it to open. Maybe you felt that too while listening, or maybe you didn't, and that's okay. This isn't one of those ideas that lands all at once. It shows up slowly, usually when you're not looking for it, in the pause before you unlock your phone, in the moment you almost put something on, but don't, in the split second where boredom feels uncomfortable, and you let it be. I don't think we need to reject modern life to feel more alive inside it. I think we just need to stop rushing past ourselves every time things get quiet. So if you take anything from this, maybe let it be that. Just once in a while, no big changes, no dramatic reset. Let the silence stretch. See what shows up, and if nothing does, that's fine too. Sometimes the point isn't what you find. It's that you stayed long enough to notice.